Hello everyone and welcome back to Make Your Mind. This is the first of the upcoming Kaiju sculptures for a specific version of Godzilla that I have to say, I watched when it first came out, and I have to admit, I slightly forgot about it, but I have been reminded of it by so many of you viewers. And that version of Godzilla is, of course, the latest version from Toho, which is Shin Godzilla, the sort of remake of Godzilla. And it is... I have to admit, that's probably my favorite version of Godzilla of all time, because of the fact that the movie is just... it's so serious. They bring the monster back in Monster Movie, and it is... oh, it's just so fascinating to me, a creature that... starts out as a small ocean creature and then consumes nuclear waste, creates its own biological nuclear reactor sort of organ within its body to survive, and then with the radiation it then mutates its body, and then throughout the entire movie you see the mutation process. But there's one part you don't see, and that's the sort of context for this sculpture today. This is a version of Shin Godzilla that we didn't really get to see, so I kind of took that and sort of created my own depiction of this creature. Now, from what I've looked up, this creature doesn't necessarily have a name, so I've actually done a little bit of digging and actually found out that, as far as I can tell, it doesn't have a name, so I came up with a name for it. Now, for those of you who don't know, Shin Godzilla, there was a user on Twitter, on a Japanese Twitter, that came up with these sort of names of the different evolutions of Shin Godzilla. You have the first form, and then you also have the second form, which is known as Kamata-Kun, which is the Kamata district, where it rampaged through. And then you have Shingawa-kun, which is the third form. And then you have the fourth form, which, for the life of me, I didn't write it down. But I will remember that name for a future video. But in the meantime, let's talk about the one form that I started with that didn't have a name. And as you can hear the ambience in the background. The first time you see Godzilla, you only get to see its tail when it comes out of the water, and it almost looks like a massive tentacle almost. But it's not a tentacle, it's actually a tail. And even now, to this day, Bandai actually sells a toy version of the first form, and it literally is just the tail. So I decided to go ahead and make the rest of the creature. So with that, let me introduce Nakanose-Kun, my interpretation of the first form of Shin Godzilla. Look at this. As you can see, when you actually see the creature in the movie, you only see that much. That's all you see. You just see a tail come out of the water with a slight fin on the end. So I decided to go ahead and make the rest of the creature. Now, when you first see the second form of Godzilla and you see this form, you think to yourself, oh, well, duh, it probably does look like that, but that's what I have to admit. Duh is what this creature would look like. There are some depictions of this creature as being sort of, kind of bulbous and fat and kind of not looking like Godzilla really would. But I sort of took the idea that Godzilla, essentially, or Shin Godzilla anyway, evolved from, I guess you could say, something like a frilled shark. Which, if you don't know what a frilled shark is, I'll leave a link down in the description below so you can see what a frilled shark actually looks like. And I basically took a frilled shark and modified it to make it look like an ever-evolving Shin Godzilla. As you can see, I started off putting the spines on the top, and you see the spines in 3 rows right here. The massive gills that make it look like a frilled shark, and of course, the sort of controversial but also sensical approach, which is the massive eyeballs. And of course, because Kamata-Kun, the second form, has those massive eyeballs. And of course I got it on both sides, and I have the gills right here, and I have that sort of stretched but also wrinkled skin texture going up down the body, and then there's the tail at the end, which sort of has the look of the tail as it did in the very first film. Now, when this creature is actually swimming through Tokyo Bay, it's leaving this sort of very unsettling red fluid as it's swimming through the water and also heading up towards the land. And the fluid is coming out of its gills and coming out of everywhere, and it's because, essentially, the creature is evolving so rapidly that the creature can't actually contain itself. And there's this red fluid that comes out of it, the creature is sort of purging itself and sort of making way for its newer forms to emerge from there. But as you can see, I have these bulges coming out of the side here of its body, which eventually will become the legs and the arms of the upcoming Shin Godzilla as it evolves. Now, the name that I announced in the video, Nakanose-Kun, is actually, the term Nakanose actually comes from a deep water shoal that's actually inside of Tokyo Bay, that it's actually about 66 meters deep. And it's a shoal that actually connects the Pacific Ocean to Tokyo Bay. So that's sort of where I came up with the name Nakanose. Because you have the other names like Kamata-Kun and Shin Godzilla for the other forms, and those are based on the locations from which the creature was actually found or the creature actually rampaged through. And I just find it so fascinating that this would sort of be the first form, because once again, you only see this much. So once again, I decided to go ahead and make the full version. So think of a frilled shark that has these sort of spines that are beginning to sort of protrude through its back as it evolves. And then these are the sort of cooling fins that sort of cool its newly developed internal biological nuclear reactor because of the radioactive waste that it was able to consume. And of course, it has the sort of jagged teeth that Shin Godzilla is known for, and of course, like Kamata-Kun and Shin Godzilla-kun, it has the massive eyeballs. So with that, that concludes the video of Nakanose-Kun, my interpretation of the first form of Shin Godzilla. And so with that, if you enjoy videos like this, don't forget to leave a like down below, and remember to subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications, so you don't miss the next sculpture showcase. I am going to be doing all of the rest of forms of Shin Godzilla, and this is going to be the first. Nakanose-Kun, my interpretation of the first form. And with that, thank you all so much for watching this video, and I will see all of you on the next Shin Godzilla Sculpture Showcase.